a beautiful morning to you. Welcome to VOP this morning. My name is Moses Humphrey, and working with me is Esther Omachiku. Now, we do know that President Bola Tinubu has given marching orders to security heads to, as he puts it, crush oil thieves and saboteurs. Now, we want to pay some attention to this today and to ask if that by itself is enough. We do invite you to be part of everything we do right here on VOP TV by liking and subscribing to our pages on YouTube. On YouTube, it is Voice of the People TV, and on other social media platforms, VOP TV Live. But first off, President Bola Tinubu on Thursday in Abuja directed service chiefs and heads of security and intelligence agencies to crush perpetrators of oil theft, saying that his administration will not tolerate the menace. Now, Tinubu also said on his watch, insecurity would not bring Nigeria to her knees, while other countries record achievements in key sectors of their economies. The president gave the directive in his maiden official meeting with service chiefs and intelligence heads, led by the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Rabo, at the presidential villa in Abuja yesterday. The National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Mongunu, retired, who addressed journalists after the meeting, revealed that the president has directed heads of security agencies to provide a purpose-made blueprint to tackle insecurity and maintain sanity nationwide. Now, the meeting was for 2 hours. Now, in the 2-hour meeting, Mongunu said that the security helmsmen briefed Tinubu on the activities of their various security formations, and also for him to be properly informed about, informed them of his expectations. Now, he said the president appreciated the armed forces and intelligence agencies and the wider paramilitary agencies for the work that they have been doing in the past couple of years. Well, I do have with me Cyril Abaku, still very much with us in the studio, and I will also be joined virtually when the connection is made by Kunle Falowo. So when that happens, we'll definitely bring him on. But in the meantime, staying with you, Cyril, crush oil thieves. First of all, in the past 1 year, we know that Nigeria has lost a lot, over 6 trillion naira to oil theft, over that amount of money to oil theft. What do you think has been happening? And the word crush, is that enough?
It's like asking, how does that differ from what President Bola has been saying over the years?
Exactly.
Well, let me start by saying that it's language that is good for the media side of it. But clearly people who are making the country lose, even official figures have to admit that it is up to as much as 6 trillion naira. It's clearly not are not people that you can just crush with a magic wand or line up and just begin to shoot them. I think that it goes a whole lot more than that.
It's a cartel. It's a cartel, and for the time we've had to suffer this, one would believe that intelligence agencies will have will have an information as to who and who are involved,
Exactly.
the companies involved, because it's not just individuals; these are organizations.
Now, you even had the president say they should go and work a blueprint. They should go and provide a blueprint for him to be able to deal with the issue. I was asking myself, Mr. President, your predecessor gave you handover notes. You should ideally tell us how far government has gone, some summaries of how far they've gone, and perhaps recommendations of what ought to be done going forward. Now, in light of what oil theft has cost Nigeria in the past, so let's have it clear from the beginning. I don't call it oil theft, Moses. It is something more than oil theft. Because in the case of oil theft, you are insinuating that a thief, an outsider, came in and took what we produced on the inside, and perhaps fled with it, and we're trying to trace him, and we've not found him, or even if we found him, we're trying to now get back what it is he took. I think that what's happening is not oil theft. What is happening is a lot more than oil theft. It's not theft. I've called it different names. I've said it could be oil diversion, it could be oil transfer, it could be oil whatever it is, but it's certainly not theft. It's not theft. You can't have 98% of what you produce, which is more or less 100% of what you produce, being lost, and looking for thieves and not for the people who are managing that production. So I think, you're just playing to the gallery really, in saying that they should crush oil thieves. What I think we should be doing, I would have thought that instead of calling them and giving them running orders, there's an NSA. There's nothing new that nothing to what has happened between Monday and yesterday. I think that you could have started the NSA and said, where are we with regard to so and so? Mr. Tinubu even if he's been out of government, he's more or less, he's like in government, out of government, but in government, because he has political proteges, he has connections to people that should give him access to fairly real-time information of what's really going on, where. And oil theft being what has been so rampant in our country, I would have thought that he would have had a better hands-on knowledge of what is really going on. Especially, you ran for president, you had a manifesto. What was your plan to, dealing with these people? What did you say during the campaigns about oil theft? So I thought that by the time they were coming, there would have been a bit more of something substantial to tell them. But saying crush them and saying give me a blueprint of what to do with the security architecture, I'm looking at the two. Do they really stick together? For me, in my view, you can't crush these oil thieves.
You can't crush
You
them.
can't crush. It couldn't be crushed. It couldn't be
You're
crushed.
looking at the word now, the word crush.
It couldn't be crushed.
But they can be stopped.
In my view, even the word stop. See, this is the thing. People went to some oil, because I'm trying to get the figures now. Some guys went, they stole oil for so-called oil theft. They were arraigned in court. The amount was around 200 and something million naira, I think. Then the matter went to court, convicted, everything. Then the Nigerian Federation came up and said he was intervening. It was the government is a prosecutor because it's a criminal case. The prosecutor said that now came to court and asked for a reduced sentence. I think each party was made to pay 2,000 naira. It happened in Lagos, in Ikoyi. So that's explaining to you that we are not dealing with something that you think you're going to crush. In my view, that particular incident tells me that government itself is complicit.
Now let me take you back to 2022. I think sometime in 2022, there was this accusation by the Niger Delta, accusing the Navy of involvement in oil theft. And it was published in some papers. I can actually, let me quote the Guardian newspaper now from September 2022. The headline was How Security Agencies Frustrate Battle Against Oil Theft. Niger Delta stakeholders allege. Now, when you look at the story, the Navy spokesman, had to chime in to say, look, give us proof of how our men have been complicit or how our men have been involved in oil theft. Now, that raises the question of the Navy's involvement, since they are the watchdogs on the waters. How well have they secured our waters? If oil theft is going on, if for the transportation to be effective, it has to be on the waters, majorly on the waters.
It has to be.
So how effective have they guarded the waters, the waters of Nigeria?
That's why I think my worry is well placed, because people who are even stealing our oil and moving it on the waters is bad enough. But when people bring a tanker twice the size of a local government, and it berths. It wasn't passing by. It came and berthed, and was there for weeks or months.
Can we truly say no one saw it, or no one was aware of what was going on?
And it got filled up. I would like to give a background. First of all, when for every ship basically, but when such vessels are moving on the waters, it's not just about the country the ship is in. It's about the fact that there is the International Shipping Organization also that has a tracking system to know what vessel is moving at what point on all the waters in the world. And these are data that they share with counterpart countries, to say. So there's a data, there's a log that says this vessel was in this country from so time to so time. It passed through this time. It passed through. It was flagged, with maybe Brazilian flags and whatever. So these things are there. It's a very straightforward, simple thing. Now that vessel came to Nigeria. Nobody saw it. It was like a see no evil, say no evil kind of. Nobody saw it. Nobody knew. After the thing had loaded and became languorous with loading, and it was now moving gallantly and majestically out of our country. It was when Equatorial Guinea also spotted and flagged and said this is not, I can't pick the country, and flagged and said this is, because of course they had spotted irregularities. That was when we began to hear Nigeria said, the Equatorial Guinea said, this person said, that person. The whole episode was so funny, and it was a ridicule. I don't think that a president should come on board and turn a blind eye to what has been going on.
Okay.
And just say, go and crush.
How are you seeing that as turning a blind eye?
Let me explain. Why are we not, in light of everything that has happened, why are we not saying that? Why are we not concerned about, for example, that vessel that I was talking about, that came to load oil worth several millions of dollars, and it was leaving. People have come out and said they have evidence of people who have been involved in oil theft. People who have gone to the US, done investigations, written to State Department, spoken to American banks. They've brought documents. They've told us of the banks where these monies are lodged. They've told us of how even when they start buying our product, Nigerians were still stealing it and selling to India, selling it to money laundering and so on. Why isn't the president interested in saying, let's get these people who have stolen this oil in the past and even prosecute them?
Okay.
I thought we should fight in corruption. Why are we not interested in dealing with malfeasance? Why are we just saying crush them? The other time, the one that was discovered in Delta State, that it had been there for God knows how 22 years or 12 years or so. It had been there for years. And when we say, we're not talking about a flow pump or a pipeline. We're talking of what looks like an entire refinery, something that is big and huge. It was brought, and it was on our water. It was there.
And you will see activity. There'll be people.
Look. The people you employ on those barges are not. You're not talking of maybe 1, 2 people or 3 people. You're talking of an entire company, bigger than an MSME. What are they called now? People. I believe people go to sell food to them. People who cook food, rice and so on. And
they have all of those on board, in fact.
Good. And Nigeria didn't know. No, now. When the chief of defense staff, when they got that, they said the order they got was to see it and do what? And destroy it. Are you fighting?
That even brings that.
Are you fighting?
That even raises questions. In destroying that particular one, in destroying, wouldn't you have lost what was taken from you? That's one. You would have lost it, which you would have retrieved and maybe sold, or you would have lost it. You would have also arrested and interviewed to know, others that are involved in it. So you start to nip them in the bud before it gets really out of hand. Now they lost that opportunity as well. You also would have been able to, you would have done a whole lot. Now, why wouldn't one think that in the name of destroy, don't even bother arresting, just destroy? Why wouldn't one think that in the name of doing that, the oil was transferred into another vessel and taken away, and we were told that it destroyed the sheep?
No, and well, you said they lost the opportunity, Moses. The question is, who are they who are losing? I think it is you and I who lost the opportunity. The people who did what they did knew what they were doing. They didn't lose any opportunity. It is you and I that lost the opportunity, one. And then number two, the way we speak is to attempt to separate the so-called operators of the badge,
we are assuming
from those who went to destroy it and so on.
We are assuming that they are not involved.
We have to assume, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So but we come back to the point again, which is that, so for example, from crude, when you refine crude, you have a lot of byproducts, kerosene, petrol, and so on, and all over the world, research is still ongoing. The people who still are crude, we don't even know what they do with it. We don't even know when they sell, how they refine, what they do with it, and so on. Whether it even comes back to harm the country one way or the other. In Port Harcourt now, the Kpo fire thing and Sooth just blanketing the whole Garden City and places where Port Harcourt, the Garden City used to have swimming pools, recreational centers. If you went there now, what you find is vast, earth, just soil with oil, soil with crude, soil with all kinds of things, natural habitat destroyed and so on. And the question that we ask at the end of the day is, this thing that is being done in broad daylight in your own country, is it that the country does not have the power to deal with the problem, or that those who are perpetrating this evil are stronger than the government? But the way the president has not chosen even to get about it tells me that he is preferring maybe to look at it from the point of view of, I'm new, maybe let everything that's happened in the past
be in the past.
Be in the past. But we know that old things, like they say, have long shadows. And so how you can, because the people are still around, they have their money, they have their wherewithal, they have because these things, maybe they bribe people, they do, and they still have those things. Will they just leave everything overnight like that?
All right. And I don't even want to bring up the issue of them being in the same party. The former president and the new one, they probably should have advised each other. But anyway, let's look at this. Let's check our phones and let's look at this. About since 2009, the Nigerian Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, NAITI, has revealed that this revelation was made sometime in 2020. They revealed that Nigeria lost about 619.7 million barrels of crude oil, valued at 16.25 trillion naira, and that's basically $46.16 billion to crude oil theft between 2009 and 2020. So basically, it's not something that just started. It's something we have been dealing with. Governments before the Tinubu administration have had to deal with this. Now, were they dealing with it with an intention to crush it, or stamp it out, or curtail it? Which were they doing? Why? What can he do differently to achieve results since 2009 up until 2023,
and perhaps even earlier? I think earlier. Yes. So let me give you a bit of a background. In 1990-91, I think it was in 1990, when there was the Gulf War and the windfall and everything that happened, and Nigeria was the only country selling oil in the world. Iraq and Iran, we had war, we had each other's throats. We were selling oil and we made a total of $12.6 billion or so. None of that, not a couple of that money, found its way to Nigerian government funds, COFAs. Babangida has been touted as, you know, that he must have a knowledge of where the money went because he was head of state. Abacha came set up a panel of inquiry, the Okigbo panel, which indicted Babangida, you know, as having a hand in how has been the one to be held for where that money went. That's two. Now, but the thing is, I think the oil theft thing had been on for a while, and somehow it went from being a monopoly to being a democracy. So a whole lot more people are now interested in the free money that comes with oil theft, because it's like they just bring their badges, plug it to wherever they can plug it to, maybe if it's Calabar or Port Harcourt or Lagos, anywhere. They just fill their tank and they are going, and nobody holds them, nobody checks them, they don't pay taxes, they owe no one an obligation, and there are willing buyers who, because you know, when the issue of people we are buying water into their cars from filling stations, and nobody, and the thing just ended like that. Nobody was arrested, no investigation was carried out, nothing. It just died the natural death. It's as if the same people, when this oil, when it's stolen, we don't know where it goes. Then later on we hear that we are importing and paying subsidy again. I think for me it's the same thing.
Yes.
It's end to end. It's the same thing. There's oil loss, then it goes away, it disappears, it dies, and then it resurrects as imported fuel. Our own crude come back as imported PMS or so on. Then they bring it back, and there's subsidy on it again. So now, and even that subsidy,
so people will tell, yes. Shouldn't we look at the companies that take our crude oil?
No, but this is why
companies that are registered in Nigeria.
This is what I've said. The president has only said go and crush them. I don't know where you're going to see them to crush them. Are they hidden somewhere? Are they afraid of us? Are they running away?
Let me put this in perspective. Well, it's already in perspective, but let's further elaborate this. Experts said that Nigeria loses about 600,000 barrels of crude oil per day. That's a lot.
Those are official figures anyway.
Official figures. It could be more. Loses 600,000 barrels per day to oil thieves. Now, the story also has it that the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, before it became NNPCL, admitted that it loses, admitted losses of 470,000 barrels per day. While this discrepancy exists, one would ask, how have they been able to trace this? 600,000 barrels per day. Dangote Refinery has come on board, and one of the things the refinery is bragging with is that it will produce 650,000 barrels per day. So basically, you can see that Nigeria has been doing a whole lot more than that. But unfortunately, Nigerians are not benefiting from it because it's been stolen and probably, like you have rightly said, probably sold back to us, and then government will now pay a subsidy on top of it, and Nigerians will now buy for expensive what was originally stolen from us. This is deep. This is really deeper than just crushing, really. So let's. Shouldn't people be held? Shouldn't people be locked up?
So when the president say crush, I find it a little bit. He's president, okay, but I find it a little bit because in any case, oil theft wasn't this bad in 11 years ago, when the president led a coalition of activists to say that President Jonathan shouldn't remove subsidy. We are all living witnesses to it. As a matter of fact, what happened back then, let me even give you, provide the viewer a little background to what happened back then. Moses. What happened was very simple and straightforward. The president said that this subsidy cannot continue. He invited governors to a meeting. He spoke to labor unions, spoke to NANS, students union, spoke to professional bodies and said, subsidy cannot remain. And there was an agreement. In fact, the governors told him, Mr. President, remove subsidy immediately. That's what the governors even told. The president said, well, because we've not released, because we have not, it may be too sudden because there are no palliatives in place. But what we can do, let's wait until the new budget cycle. Then we can remove subsidy from the budget, so we know that we're not paying it again. They accepted it. In fact, do you know, by the time on January 1, I think it was January 1 or 2, when the president went ahead with the announcement, it was ASEAN. I mean, we are mature. It was ASEAN governors. We are old enough to know that. It was ASEAN governors who stood up, who began. In fact, it was as if they were waiting for the press. As soon as the announcement was made, the way the protests sprang out in ASEAN condo states back then, it was like were they waiting for him to just say the word and then they'll kick against it. At a meeting later on, it was Adams Oshomole, an ASEAN governor, who had the courage to confront his colleagues and said, what you guys are doing is not good. We all came here, met the president and reached an agreement. Now overnight, you turn your back on him. What are we going to do? Student groups, workers, everybody. Subsidy wasn't taken away back then. If we had done it back then, perhaps by now, would have been on better grounds. But today, when the president says crush oil thieves, first of all, like I was, they are not oil thieves, okay? They are anything else. But then the president has said crush them. Where will you see them to crush? They are not in hiding. He should ask the Minister of Justice, why did you go to court when people stole oil worth about 200 million, and you went and told the court that those people should pay fines of just 4,000 naira? Ask them, why did you do that? Or maybe he's not aware. Ask that. Ask, why have you not been able over the years to, the meeting lasted just 2 hours. I would have sincerely thought that that before they even came to state that there should have been enough briefing for the president to know, you say, when you go, you guys, let's do 1, 2, 3. Except he told them other things that we're not privy to in the media. But the word crush, I mean, yes, they will crush them, but those people are not in hiding. They are not running away. In Port Harcourt, there was a story about the fact that a judge was even involved in the fire oil illegal oil bunkering. I think the governor said it, or somebody said that a judge was involved. When Governor Wike said one top police officer in this state is even the sponsor of this whole thing, did police headquarters bother to call the governor? Governor Wike is out of office and he's a lawyer. Have they bothered to call him to say, which officer can you come and give us witness testimony? Unless you know what evidence did you see? What do you have? What do you know? Can you tell us? Can you help us with the investigation? Nobody is saying that. If you're not investigating, if you're not prosecuting, if you're not interested in dealing with the matter and just say go and crush, the Nigerian problem has gone past the. Of course, an element of it is required, but I think it has gone past the point where you just say, get a gun, get a hammer, and hack them to death. How about bandits? How about, because that didn't even come up in the discussion, Mr. President. People are feasting on fellow Nigerians in Plateau State and in Benue. We didn't even hear that come out of the president's mouth.
Maybe all of that will be addressed later on.
Or perhaps he said it and they just came to brief us on what on the part they thought
they're probably just taking it a step at a time.
It's fine. But people like that, so it should even be a holistic national security strategy. Which for me, I mean, Nigeria, we've had many meetings, many conferences. I think that when these people go to, they already know how it will start and how it will end.
Well, I would believe that the head of the Navy, I don't know what they call him, Rear Admiral or whatever it is, should be brought in for questioning. If you run an agency and the men under you have failed to do their job, the buck, as they say, stops on the table of the head, the one that wears the crown. So he should be brought in for questioning and made to answer. I mean, every one of them, everyone that has been the head of such agencies like the Navy and agencies like that, should be made to answer questions from 2009 up until now. All of them should be made to answer questions.
Now we are heading into this is what should have been happening if we wanted to be serious. This is where the discussion should be going. If we wanted to be
it should be made to answer serious questions.
Nigeria should not be owing whatever it is we're owing China and other people in the world. I mean, if we can bring in all the money that has been stolen, even in the past 1 year, one year, Moses, 1 year. If we are serious about getting back monies that have been lost, all people that have bled this country dry, if we are serious about getting back monies, I'm telling you that if the EFCC was to sit up and do its job, we can use the EFCC as a tool to pay back all our debts. We can. The EFCC boss, when he was nominated, people came up and said he was 40 years old, but that he had an issue about that he too was involved in oil, whatever, in Port Harcourt. But now, when a man is accused like that, and he is being preferred to public office, what was the clean bill of health he was given before eventually took? Because I mean, you cannot. It's like the saying in my place that when the crab was not the land crab, the main crab, we call it paper. When the crab was moving, I'm told you, and I say, you people need to walk well. Don't walk sideways and don't look left and be going right. Walk well. And mother crab was moving and telling her children to walk well, and they said they are only following her footsteps. And the people are complaining and saying when they turn this way, they are moving the other way. That they should walk properly, that they should walk straight. They said, Mom, it is you we are following. So if we are not going to go the line that you are now towing, we won't be sending a strong signal to the people who are behind these things. We are not. We can't be. We won't be sending a very strong signal. For me, I just feel if you fear that Nigeria could come back at you, it means you can't fix this country. You will need a very bold look.
Now, if arrests are to be made who should do the arresting?
No, there's the police. The police is the primary institution of government saddled with internal security. It's the police. The police is the primary, organ of government that deals with internal. All of these. Look, what is the Navy even doing? The service chiefs, when it comes to internal security, what are they even doing there? They are supposed to be dealing with territorial issues. It is when it matters, but when internal security, it is the police and perhaps the DSS. Okay, through the coordination of the National Security Advisor. This is where the job should be. I think that where Nigeria even is today, the NSA and the president can, and perhaps they can sit, and perhaps the police chief and DSS can sit down. Critical. Now the fact that the president even called them and gave them marching orders, is it giving us the impression that they are not going to go anytime soon?
That's another angle to it.
That they're not going to go anytime soon.
No, but it shouldn't matter. Since they are still in office, they should be made to
No, of course they should work, but I mean it's a question that's worth thinking about, because if you call that when Buhari came, okay, I think he too stayed with the former people for some time. I remember Samuel Dasuki was National Security Advisor. He was there with the president a couple of, I think, weeks or months. Then later on, the president took him. I mean, they took him and they arrested him in Kaduna, Niger, and took him to prison. And he was there for almost 4 or 5 or 6 years. But this is the issue. So we know it's not easy. The interests are very strong. But when you're president, when you're governor, when you're a leader, you have the responsibility to do what is right. Because if we can't send a clear and strong message to these people that there's a new sheriff in town, they will continue their business. You don't come in. Look at a country where the president was sworn in on Monday, and was it Wednesday, the DSS and the EFCC, the DSS did not even care to imagine that there was a new sheriff in town. They laid siege. I think that we need to set a very strong example. No, to be honest with you, the president needs to set a very strong example that he won't brook nonsense. What the statement I read, in the media was that the president has told other DSS to end the siege, which was okay, and that whatever differences these two agents of government have will be settled amicably. Will be settled amicably, and I was a bit. So the word struck me. Now, why did it strike me? It's simple. Sometimes some people feel that when you're not in government, you don't know what's really going on in government, but it's not always correct. This is the point. If it were, let's say, Ministry of Women Affairs having a problem with the Ministry of Youth and Sports, for example, maybe over how many offices should one occupy in a building, federal secretariat, and so on. Those are things that can be sorted out with the office of the SGF, for example, or head of service, depending on how the president wants to get about it. They can sort it out. But the DSS is not a civil organization. They are not particular. They carry arms, which means that people that work with order, they are under the man who is commander in chief. Primarily, he, of course, president, but also commander in chief, because he is their chief commander. What is amicable about that? You're talking of conflict resolution. What's amicable about that? The EFCC has agents who also carry firearms. And sincerely speaking,
one would wonder, what if there was a return of fire?
Shots were fired. We are shots not fired.
Shots were fired.
We've not had anything about arrests or any serious thing, being done. If you're investigating, who is doing the investigation, and so on. I'm not. I'm behind the news, but where I am, I haven't read. It has not even come back to the front pages since the day it happened. You read them every day, except
the president has asked them to settle in-house, so probably
that kind
is
of
what they are doing.
Settlement, and he has not even formed his government fully. He does not have an SGF.
There are people in place already.
I know he does not have an SGF. He does not have an SGF. He has an NSA. What happened that day is what happened because the EFCC is under. I think it moved from the Presidency to the Ministry of Justice under Jonathan. I don't know whether Buhari moved it back, but this is something that is directly under the president's purview. There are no ministers. There's no cabinet. Everybody answers to the president for now. So it's something that he personally needs to, as it were,
look into.
So when you say settle amicably, you need to let us know that this is it. But so bringing all of this home, when I watch the president, I see him as someone who is largely political. When I mean political, not in a negative sense of it. Political in terms of he would rather have a diplomatic, tete-a-tete, a date. He would rather go for détente and rapprochement than armed warfare or armed conflict. So if this is his approach to doing things, sometimes it could come at a cost. If people know that no matter what I do, round table, no matter what I do, dialogue, sometimes you need to take
you think that's okay?
No.
Well, I share a different view. Anyway, we'll take a break, a quick one. When we come back, we'll continue with this conversation.